very good morning and a warm welcome to all the student, faculty and staff of Symbiosis International University who are attending this special session via Zoom and YouTube. It is an absolute delight to see so many of you logged in and waiting eagerly and enthusiastically to listen to one of India's dynamic, energetic, versatile young leader and Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Shri Anurag Singh Thakur ji, for today's dual concurrent session of Golden Jubilee Lecture Series and SIMSARC Special Ministerial Address. Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series is a brainchild of our dynamic Dr. Vidya Yervedekar, Pro-Chancellor SIU, to commemorate the 50th year of establishment of Symbiosis. This Golden Jubilee Lecture Series aims at bringing the eminent stalwarts and luminaries from different walks of life and discipline to share their thoughts and ignite the young minds of the students and also of the faculty, staff, and others. So far, we had 14 top personalities such as Mr. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Dr. Amitabh Kant, Dr. R.A. Mashlekar, Dr. Kiran Majumdar Shaw, Mr. Saurav Ganguly, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Ambassador Vijay Gokhale, among others, who have delivered their talks. Today we have Honorable Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Shri Anurag Singh Thakur ji, to share his thoughts on it. Without further ado, I invite Dr. Vidya Yervedekar, Pro-Chancellor SIU, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Aarti, Professor Aarti, the chief guest for the Golden Jubilee Lecture Series and for the keynote address at the Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies hosting the research conference, Shri Anurag Thakurji. Dr. S.B. Muzumdar, sir, the founder and president of Symbiosis and the chancellor of Symbiosis International University. Dr. Rajni Gupte, the vice chancellor. Brigadier Divekar, the director of SIMS. Directors of various institutions of Symbiosis. Staff members, students who have joined in large numbers, not only on Zoom, but thousands of students who joined on YouTube Live. And of course, well-wishers and academia from different parts of the world attending this conference. Sir, it gives us great pleasure to invite you to Symbiosis. In fact, it's been a long time. I think it was long overdue that you address the students of Symbiosis, and you, I'm sure you're aware that I have been in touch with your office for, I think, for the last maybe 2 years. And it's nice that you are addressing our students today at the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture. My father, Dr. Muzumdar, the founder of Symbiosis, established Symbiosis 50 years ago in 1971 as a small organization for the welfare of foreign students. And today it has blossomed into a very large multidisciplinary university. We have campuses not just in Pune, but also in Noida, Nagpur, Nasik, and of course in Bangalore and Hyderabad. The Symbiosis has not just spread, but it has shown excellence. And I'm sure there are a lot of students from your state who study in Symbiosis and may have done very well for themselves and their families. Sir, this is a great connection where you were commissioned as a regular officer in the Territorial Army as a lieutenant. And this institute called SIMS, the Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, which is under our university, is also an institute exclusively for children of defense personnel. So little did I realize, honestly, I didn't even realize that, you have this connection with the Indian Army, but it's really nice and probably it is a great coincidence. Sir, your dynamism in not just your your ministry and what we read about you, but your dynamism in other fields and more specifically sports, I think makes you one of the most popular ministers amongst the youth. And I'm sure today our students are extremely excited to listen to you. My personal experience has been that I've been to Dharmashala and I've seen the cricket ground. In fact, my son and my husband are avid cricket fans like many other Indians. And specifically, we went to Dharmashala to see the beautiful cricket ground that you have created. And that just shows, the kind of commitment that you have for not just your state, but for the country at large. So I won't take much time, sir. We are eagerly waiting to listen to you. And I welcome you once again to Symbiosis, but this is a virtual meeting. And we hope that someday we find you coming to Symbiosis personally and interacting with our students. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you, madam, for these encouraging words which have put the things in the perspective. I now invite our most revered and respected Dr. S.B. Majumdar, founder and chancellor of Symbiosis International University, and who himself is a distinguished academician, renowned educationist, and a visionary of eminence, to deliver his presidential address. May I request you, sir?
Namaste Anurag ji, I am Dr. Majumdar and welcome to Symbiosis. Today's distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Anurag Thakur, Minister for Finance, Dr. Vidya, Dr. Rajni Gupte, Brigadier Vivekar, my student friends, invitees, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of myself and Symbiosis International University, I extend you, sir, a very, very hearty welcome. I have read about you, I have heard about you, and I'm really surprised that at such an young age, you have achieved so many laurels in your life. My best wishes to you, sir. Let me tell you in very short time, the story of Symbiosis. I was professor of botany at Ferguson College, and then I realized that Pune attracts large number of Afro-Asian students to study in different colleges and institutions. There are many problems of admissions, problems of accommodation in hostel, but more than that, there are many social problems, Anurag. For example, many African students felt that Indians not only discriminate us, but sometimes they neglect us. And therefore, we thought that if we can help these foreign students during their student days in India, they will be our unofficial ambassadors of goodwill. And that is how we started a small organization called Symbiosis for the welfare of foreign students. Another peculiarity was there was no dialogue between foreign students and Indian students. And so we used to arrange many cultural and social functions for them. But we realized that after these functions, again there was segregation and dialogue used to stop. So I, being a teacher myself, thought that if we start educational institutions, foreign and Indian students will live together in a room, play together on playground, and that is how they will interact with each other. They will become friends, brothers, which will ultimately lead to international understanding. So Symbiosis was not started basically to establish educational institutions. It was a very interesting thing that it was started for international students studying in Pune. But it so happened that in 2002, we approached the central government to confer the deemed university status on various institutions of Symbiosis. And therefore, we have now students from nearly 85 different countries and almost all states of our country. Now, as regards Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, it has also a very interesting genesis. In 1993, one of our staff members in Management Institute suggested, and he was in Army, Mr. Bala Subramaniam was his name, and he retired as Subedar. He suggested to me, Dr. Majumdar, the children of defense personnel cannot compete with other students because of frequent transfers of army officers. And he suggested that why don't you start an institute exclusively for the children of defense personnel? And that is how we were perhaps the first NGO, an educational institution, a private educational institution, we started uh, Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies exclusively for defense personnel. And believe me, the government of India and Defense Ministry allotted some piece of land in Pune, Kirki cantonment, and we have a beautiful campus where 90% of students who are dependents on defense personnel are presently studying there. And believe me, the children, they, they are so adaptable. maybe because they have family background, defense background, that they shine in all different walks of life. So this is a very interesting institution of Symbiosis. And Brigadier Devekar has organized a research conference whose inauguration will be done at your hands. Now, this international, this particular research conference is being organized every year. And it is a very good coincidence that you are addressing our students on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of Symbiosis, as well as the research conference organized by Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies. I must thank you for your time, and as Vidya rightly said, a day should come very soon when you will visit our institution physically. God bless you, and thank you again for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. And these have set the stage for the ministerial address that all we have been looking forward to. Before we invite the Honorable Minister, I now invite Brigadier Dr. Rajiv Devekar, Director, SIMS, to introduce the Minister.
Thank you, Dr. Aarti. It is my pleasure, privilege, and honor to introduce today's special speaker, the charismatic, erudite, forthright, and energetic Mr. Anurag Singh Thakur ji, the Honorable Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs. Everyone knows him very well, and his list of achievements and accomplishments run long and deep. But I must still mention many things about him that are not so commonly known to all, and which bring to fore his dynamism, competence, leadership, and focused vision. Mr. Anurag Thakur is a multifaceted person of eminence who has achieved so much in such a short span of career. He is a minister, politician, sports administrator, a defense officer, and a social worker, excelling in every field. He is even more, there is even more to him, and we have a small video on him which showcases his achievements. After all, actions speak louder than words. So over to the video on him.
एक अफसर के रूप में जब आर्मी चीफ ने व्हिपिंग अप सेरेमनी में आकर कमीशन किया तो मुझे लगता है इससे बड़ा सौभाग्यशाली दिन मेरे लिए कुछ नहीं था। तो देश की सेना का मैं हिस्सा बना।
आज का जो मैच है वो बहुत लोगों का हौसला बनाने वाला है कि फील्डिंग मिस हुई और अनुराग जी ने फिर 2 रन चुरा लिए। तो मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है।
I now request the Honorable Minister to deliver his talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brigadier Saab. Shri S.P. Majumdar ji, founder and president of Symbiosis International University. Dr. Vidya ji, Pro VC, Symbiosis International University. Dr. Rajni Gupte ji, Vice Chancellor, professors and dear students of Symbiosis. I am currently in Jammu and Kashmir, where the first DDC elections have just been held. And I'm grateful to the Symbiosis that they have given me an opportunity to address the students of one of the most premium institutes of the country. And my address today is from India's frontier region, Jammu and Kashmir. And like this northern frontier region, you too will one day be putting India's interest first. One day you will be the founders, CEOs, and CFOs leading the forefront. You will be fighting boardroom battles to set new benchmarks in corporate excellence. On a lighter note, though, there are some CEOs who fight battles in court and some who quote corporate battles. But having said that, along the way, you will find obstacles that you must learn from the opportunities that you must leverage. And in the process, you will make friends and foes. You will be in the driver's seat, shaping the destiny of the company and dividends for the investors. I'm saying this because the world when you entered Symbiosis will be very different when you exit and graduate. The expectations will be high from you, by the parents, and from the teachers, faculty. Today the world around us has changed. Our lives, our livelihoods, our outlook towards life has also changed. It has been over a year since the world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And now preparations are underway for the vaccine. The COVID-19 pandemic has unsettled the world, undermined the established norms, and underlined the importance of good health in our personal lives, businesses, and the economy as a whole. If we look at this, it has disrupted the supply chains, hampered business models. It has made us rethink, reimagine, and reset our lives and our livelihoods. Prime Minister Modi, while addressing the nation, I think in the month of March, he rightfully said, Jaan hai to jahan hai. We prioritized health above all. And as the situation stabilized, we opened up transportation, markets, and factories. We shifted from Jaan bhi to Jahan bhi. We remained alert as well as responsive. While COVID-19 pandemic is fundamentally a health crisis, it is also affected India and the world on the economic front. And in order to reduce the spread of virus, it was important to shut down and socially distance ourselves. I won't say socially distance, I'll say physically distance ourselves. I'm sure you're aware of what's happening in the UK, US, and Europe right now. Like almost every other country in the world, India too saw its economic growth and activities fall. However, due to the gradual and thoughtful unlocking of lockdown and the resumption of the business activities in the second quarter, we are looking at a strong economic revival, and based on the strong fundamentals and slew of structural reforms. But in order to understand the post-COVID world, it is important to begin from the year of 2014. It has been Modi ji's government goal to take bold, decisive, well-thought policy decisions since it was sworn in 2014. When we came into power for the first time, we inherited an economy which was part of Fragile Five, and foreign investors were pulling out funds from India. To put things in perspective, India's gross fiscal deficit in the year 2014 was 4.6%, combined with the states rose to 6.9%. The real GDP in the year 2013-14 was paltry 4.6%. The annual growth rate of CPI inflation during the UPA time was 10.2%. And we had a lopsided trade balance. The deficit rose to $190 billion in 2013, with a current account deficit of 4.8% of the GDP. The FDI inflows in 2013 and 14 were mere $34.3 billion and $36 billion respectively. Total number of saving bank accounts in commercial banks were 97.78 crores in the year 2014, We inherited a banking and NPA crisis that was a direct result of the indiscriminate, incessant lending carried out prior to the year of 2014. Basically, the fundamental macroeconomic indicators were pointing towards the fact that economy was gravely mismanaged. However, in the last 6 years, we have consistently introduced reforms and have brought about significant change, and now all indicators from inflation to fiscal deficit, from forex reserves to current account deficit, and from a historic goods and services tax we generally call the GST to a historic corporate tax rate cut, from bringing insolvency bankruptcy code to the decriminalization of the Companies Act, from higher GDP growth rate to financial inclusion for the poor, all point to a very stable and sustainable economic position. Today, despite the COVID-19 adversity facing us, India has decided to turn this into an opportunity. And as the world grapples with the pandemic, India under Prime Minister Modi has decided to reboot, reform, research on the path of Atmanirbhar Bharat for economic revival. India announced the Atmanirbhar package to the tune of 29 lakh crore rupees, which is roughly 19% of our GDP. Atmanirbhar Bharat is not just a vision, but an economic strategy for a self-reliant and sustainable India. And India, in future, an India which creates value, wealth for all, accelerates growth, integration and opportunities for Indians and the world at large. Global economic resilience can be achieved by the strong domestic economic capabilities. This means expanding our domestic manufacturing base, a robust financial system, and diversification of international trade. In the past 6 years of Modi government, banking and digital reforms have empowered the weak and brought into mainstream those who were on the margins. We have taken a slew of financial and banking reforms. We have also kept focus on making India a manufacturing hub. Today, India's economic recovery is broad-based and has not only come from the agriculture sector. In the last 3 months, if you look at India's manufacturing PMI, it has been above 50, which represent expansion in the manufacturing sector. The index of the industrial production rose by 3.6% in the month of October, making it 2 consecutive months of growth in the IIP data. We have recorded 2 consecutive months, October and November, with GST collections exceeding more than 1 lakh crore rupees. The collection for these months was higher than the corresponding months in the previous year. Of the 48 high frequency indicators used by the Reserve Bank of India to track the economy, 30 parameters overtook the February mark. We have seen stellar recovery in the passenger vehicle sales, two-wheeler sales, oil consumption, steel production, cement production, international air cargo, amongst others. And on the digital payment front, this is where the fintech has played an immense role. UPI transactions rose to 2.2 billion in the month of November with a value of more than 3.9 lakh crore rupees. And this growth in the UPI and digital transaction is praiseworthy, and it shows India's caliber and pedigree in the fintech space. From Facebook to Google, the giants of the tech world are all recognizing the iconic rise and value of India's UPI system, which is truly is India's digital soft power. In fact, we have also laid the digital highway for the growth of the banking and the financial sector by taking up the task of connecting 2.5 lakh panchayats. Each and every panchayat will be connected by the broadband, and we have already connected more than 1.5 lakh panchayats. Rest of the 1 lakh panchayats will be connected during this year. That means entire 6 lakhs villages in India will be connected by the optical fiber, which will give you the broadband connectivity. And it is on this digital highway that India's digital payments is setting new benchmarks. In the month of November, FIIs brought close to 55,000 crore rupees worth of shares, which is the highest ever in the single month till now. India's forex reserves have risen by 100 billion US dollars in the last 8 months, stand at a record high of, our total forex reserves stand at a high of close to 580 billion US dollars. This is a sign of confidence that the global funds and investors look at India as a destination to invest. They are bullish about the India's growth story. In fact, just last week, Invest India was declared as the winner of 2020 United Nations Investment Promotion Award by the UNCTAD. This is a testament to the faith shown by the global community about India being the preferred destination for investment and appreciation of our reforms. People sometimes ask me, Minister, what are the big trends in the financial and tech and corporate world? And predict the new emerging sector of the growth, which is the next big idea waiting to happen. And my answer is, the next big idea is India. India is the place to be. This is where it's all happening now. It is the time to come and invest in India. India is the only democratic country in the world where you have an opportunity to scale across sectors and achieve double-digit growth. With the added advantage of a billion plus digital marketplace, can you think of any other country? Can any one of you think about any other country? We are taking the requisite steps to make India a manufacturing and export powerhouse, as well as hub of the world's largest skilled workforce. We are skilling millions of people every year, and we can easily become the world's largest skilled workforce. We have to. We are building a conducive ecosystem for our enterprises and entrepreneurs to emerge as dominant global players. If the national education policy is expanding the future of the education sector of the country, then it is also empowering and making India's youth future ready. And I'm talking to the future ready youth. And I'm sure you might have discussed the national education policy, maybe during the webinars, online seminars. And let me come to the agriculture sector, which is very important for our country. People have been talking in the last 30 years to bring some changes in the agriculture sector and farm reforms, but they were not able to do so. And if the agri and farm reforms are empowering the farmers and opening up avenues in the agri food processing, cold storage, and export opportunities, then labor reforms are providing growth, security, and thrust to both the labor as well as the industry. And we had the courage, Prime Minister Modi had the courage to bring in the agriculture reforms and the labor reforms, which is going to help both our farmers as well as our laborers. In fact, if the direct benefit transfer, the JAM Trinity, which we Jandan, Aadhaar, and Mobile Trinity, has ensured improvement in the public distribution system and the financial inclusion, then the UPI Bhim, as I said earlier, has emerged as the digital soft power of India. And let me add this, and opens up immense possibilities in fintech and the personal banking. If the national infrastructure pipeline, with an outlay of more than 105 lakh crore rupees, is building the infrastructure of New India, then the RERA has provided redressal and security to home buyers. If the GST was introduced to free the country from the web of taxes, then a new faceless assessment and the faceless appeals initiative in the income tax sector has provided a hassle-free taxation system that writes to taxpayers through the Charter of Rights. Let me further say this, Atmanirbhar Bharat has opened up vast opportunities in every sector that we have opened up for the private sector to invest, whether it is renewable energy, technology, artificial intelligence, fintech, digital India, housing, urbanization, infrastructure, or you may call it agriculture, food processing, defense production, space, logistics, rail, road, ports, airports, waterways. This opens up the doors for innovation, investment, and job creation. Every sector opened up will have a multiplier effect on the other, and this will accelerate growth, create wealth for all, provide a quantum leap towards economic prosperity. And moving on, I would like to say this. Unlike before, we no longer walk in silos. Under Prime Minister Modi, cooperative federalism has become competitive federalism. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen how cooperative federalism has benefited India. Prime Minister Modi himself held many video conferences with the state leadership. We as a minister held uh, these uh, seminars, webinars with various stakeholders across the country. This has strengthened our federal structure. This cooperative federalism has helped us to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and also is helping us to have the competitive federalism. It takes small, deliberate, targeted changes over a period of time that will yield result. And Modi government is known for setting targets, timelines, and clear trajectories, and most importantly, achieving them in record time. And finally, before I end, when the world look back at this time and this year 2020, I come from the cricket background, as Pro VC has already said, and I'm grateful that she mentioned about the Dharamshala Stadium. It was very close to my heart as I was only 26 years old when I built that stadium. And this is rated as one of the most picturesque stadium in the world. And I'm glad that people from Western India also, and especially ma'am, you who have a big name in the field of education, you have come with your family and visited. I'm grateful to you that mentioned it. Let me just come back to the year 2020. We were supposed to have a 2020 World Cup, but we could not. But this year 2020 reminds us as a pandemic year. It will be recalled as a pandemic year. Disruption, social distancing, work from home will be the key words. But when India will look back into the history, see it as what India will see it as. India will see this year as a year of historic reforms, a year of tectonic transformation and intent in the government policy, a year of opportunity in the wake of adversity. जैसे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा, आपदा में अवसर ढूंढना है. We have seen an opportunity in the wake of adversity. And this year 2020 has offered India an opportunity to forge a new vision of globalization, focused on the shared interest of humanity as a whole. This year has given India the opportunity to emerge as the engine of global growth. The all-round reforms that are taking place in our country has never happened before. And under the able leadership of Prime Minister Modi, we intend to make India a leading global power. And the role of youth, young, energetic, enthusiastic executives, and the entrepreneurs is vital for achieving this. And on that note, I will conclude my speech and I look forward for a few quick questions. Ma'am, as in charge of this J&K elections, I have called a meeting at 11 o'clock because I was told that it's going to be a half-an-hour session. And people from various parts of Jammu and Kashmir, they have gathered and they're waiting for me. Yesterday, BJP has done extremely well again, being the single largest party, has won close to 74, 75 seats in Jammu and Kashmir on the forefront. And Brigadier Saab will know this better than anyone else. What are the situation and conditions in the state of Jammu and Kashmir when people like us, it was difficult for us to hoist the national flag also in some parts of Jammu and Kashmir. I did so in the year of 2011 and I was arrested and jailed just to hoist the national flag in Srinagar at Lal Chowk. Along with me, others, because I was the national president of the youth wing at that time. I was, doing a yatra from Calcutta to Kashmir. Others like Arun Jaitley ji and Sushma Swaraj ji, who were the leader of opposition, they were also jailed with me just to attempting to hoist the national flag in Srinagar Lal Chowk. Can you imagine this? Are you barred anywhere in any other part of the country? Most of the student doesn't know what kind of conditions used to prevail before last year. It was Prime Minister Modi who abrogated the Article 370 and 35A, and Kashmir has benefited out of this. People of Jammu and Kashmir has benefited out of this. And I'm sure students from Jammu and Kashmir who are studying in Symbiosis can vouch for this. And let me say this, Jammu Kashmir is ready to give competition to other states now. They are going to emerge as one of the fast growing states in the coming months, years. And I look forward for Symbiosis to have their own centers in the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. I wish in my time when I was studying in one of the colleges in Punjab, I had an opportunity to study in a premier institution like Symbiosis. Unfortunately, I could not because I was too much into cricket. But nevertheless, I had an opportunity to address the students of this premium institute. Thank you once again. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Sir, we'll take a few questions. I know you are busy and you have to leave, but just that the students are all eager to interact with you. So just a few questions we'll take. And
so we have got the questions from faculty, students and staff. So I will request Sakshi Nigam from SSI, Deepak Balian from SIMS and Ravi Kumar from SIMS to come and ask their questions quickly. They can unmute themselves, switch on their camera one by one and ask the question to the minister.
My question is, how can import substitution help in making India self-reliant in long term?
Good morning, sir. This is Deepak Balian. Sir, what are your views on the recently published internal working group committee report by the RBI, which talked about allowing the big corporate houses to set up banks in India? As sir, in the future, the cases of the default loans can also go up as the connected lending will be much more easily accessible for them.
My name is Ravi Kumar, sir. Now, in the absence of audience in cricket and thus the additional revenue sources, what do you envision the future of cricket to be like in the post-pandemic period?
Let me come first to the Sakshi. I think she raised a very relevant question. Import substitution is very important for a country like India, where we spend most of our funds on the import of fossil fuels. And that is why it is very important to have more resources here in India so that we can cut down, on two sectors we used to spend most of the amount. One is on the fossil fuel, second is on the electronic goods. In the field of electronic goods, if you have seen, we have come out with the production link incentive scheme. First, we did that with the mobile manufacturing and others, where we incentivize the industry. And you will be pleased to know that India has become the second largest manufacturer of the mobile phones. And with these new schemes of the production link incentive schemes, where we have identified 10 sectors, ranging from automobile parts to pharma, active pharmaceutical ingredients, medical devices, diagnostics, and all that. That clearly shows that we are focusing in the right directions, making it the production link incentive schemes, where we can scale our industries to the next level and become the global players, the number one and number two in many fields, from footwear to furniture to other industry. I think that will help in India to create more jobs and also to cut down on your imports. So this Atmanirbhar Bharat will play a very, very important role, ma'am. As you have seen during the pandemic time, what happened, even the industry like Apple, they have also moved out from China and set up their shops or the factories in India. Labor reforms are going to help us in that regard. And let me come back to the second question by Deepak on the internal working group to allow corporate houses to set up bank branches or new banks. I think this is a good step if that happens. Why? If you look at the size of India and if you compare us with America, we don't have enough banks. We have opened new bank accounts under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi 40 crore people have got new bank accounts in just 3 years span. But do we have enough bank branches? Do we need more competition? I think there could be checks and balances when the corporate houses come forward and start banks if the RBI allows that. There can be enough checks and balances so that there are not corporate frauds. I think that could be taken care. But I personally feel it won't be a bad idea to allow corporates to open banks in the private sector. Now, Ravi has raised a very important issue without audience. Whether cricket will be interesting. I think the first experience we had was with the uh, last season of the IPL, which was held overseas. And I think the maximum TRP during that period, whether you look at the family shows or news or anything else, TRP for the IPL was the highest. That clearly shows people's love for the game of cricket. One thing I would like to say, it is the commentary which makes very, very important and the cricket very interesting. If you take the commentary part out, then the cricket becomes very boring. I think the commentators also play a very, very important role. Any other game, if you have good commentators, it's going to look very interesting. And with the shorter format, I think the cricket is also looking very, very interesting these days. And especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, it has come out as a option for people to get more entertained and see some good quality matches. And I think as I read in the papers, I could not see matches, but I heard that the tournament was very successful, and sports lovers like you gonna make it more interesting. And India is going to host 2 World Cups in future in 2021 and 2023. I think that's going to be a big thing. Pune is going to host some matches, test matches. I think they have allotted the BCCI. It's only Chennai, Ahmedabad, and Pune which are going to host England. And I think it's a big opportunity for students in Pune if they allowed you to come to the stadium. Otherwise, you could see it online.
So next question is from Jay Kumar Purohit from SIBM, Anirudh Roy from SSBF, and Sunipa De from SSE. I request all the three students to come and ask the question one by one.
So, sir, with the investments playing a crucial role, how are we ensuring to stimulate the investment cycle amidst the stringent reforms which happens during the COVID-19?
So my question is, innovations have given rise to a lot of startups and small businesses in India. However, during the pandemic, certain businesses and small startups are facing a lot of problems. In cases such as these, can India still vow to reach a $5 trillion economy?
Hello, sir. So my question is, we are seeing a lot of public sector banks which are defaulting nowadays. So what could be the possible solution in reducing this phenomenon while moving to the 5 trillion economy?
Let me say this, that on the stability and the investment cycle, the Jack Kumar has said, if you look at the past 8 months, we have seen a record investments in the FIIs and the FDI. This clearly shows the world has a confidence in us, and these reform has further strengthened their confidence in India. Prime Minister Modi personally spoke to many, and I was part of that webinar also across the world. One, he did it collectively with the group, and then one-on-one. And in that 15-20 days, we have seen billions of dollars coming as an investment in India. That is one. Second, reform is, helping India to create a perception overseas also, and with the lowest corporate tax rate across the world. To invest in India, only 15% tax they have to pay in the manufacturing sector. And third is the labor reforms and many other areas where we have done extremely well, whether it was the Inter-Solar Alliance, where we are coming up with the solar plants, where we had only few megawatts earlier. Now we are into gigawatts, where we have done well. Many new industries in new areas, we have started doing well. So I think with the change is required, because COVID-19 pandemic has taught us how to keep innovating and keep looking at new sectors. Look at India. We used to import even PP kits from abroad. Now we are the net exporter. That clearly shows our capability and capacity to do well in the crisis also. Now, the second, for the Anirudh said about the innovation and the startup, let me say this. The day I became the MOS Finance, Prime Minister Modi called me and Nirmala ji and told us to resolve all the issues related to startups. He wanted Indian youth to do well, and we have resolved most of the things, whether it was the issue with the IT and the long-term capital gain taxes and all that. Every issue has been resolved, and whatever help will be required by the startups in future also, we are going to help them, because they are creating value for India. India was nowhere before 2014 among the startup nations, and if you look at today, we're among the top 4 startup nations in the world. That clearly shows the strength of India and the capability of Indian youth, and I think that is very, very important. We want to have the maximum benefit of that. If you have any ideas what need to be done to do so, because I personally feel to achieve a $5 trillion economy mark by 2024-2025, startups are going to also play a very, very important role. Whereas Sunipa has said that about the public sector banks, let me say this: public sector banks were under the PCA framework during the UPA time. It was us who did the asset quality review during the 2015-16, I remember, I think during Jaitlji's time, 14-15 and 15-16, where we did the asset quality review of the banks, came out with the right NPAs, didn't hide in the books. And that is, after that, we have infused capital of close to 5 lakh crore rupees into the public sector banks. If you look at the net NPAs in the past 3-4 years, the public sector banks have started doing well. They have come out of the PCA framework, and with the amalgamation of the banks, public sector banks, it has helped them. You know, the size has become bigger. There is better coordination among the employees. The software has been used by, for example, PNB has the OBC and another bank in them. And Dena Bank has been merged into the Union Bank, and one more bank, I think, that has been merged into the Union Bank. It has helped the PNB and Union Bank to grow with a bigger size. And we need, at the same time, we need more banks. But on the PSB front, I think the government took the right step to amalgamate the banks, and it has helped them to strengthen their working and their capital as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Sir, I think we'll end the program here. We just allow Brigadier Devekar to give a formal vote of thanks. But before that, I must thank your government for rolling out the new education policy. I've been a part of it, being the chair of FICCI Higher Education Committee. And one thing that you said was very right, that this government is really very participatory. Even when it came to the national education policy, you all consulted all the stakeholders. And just last week, Nirmala ji had a pre-budget consultation meeting, which I also attended on behalf of FICCI. And therefore, I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to participate. So can we request Brigadier Devekar to, sir, to give the vote of thanks so that the minister can then leave?
Yes, Dr. Vidya, I'll just take a minute. It's my honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks. At the outset, I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister for taking time out from his busy schedule and delivering the talk. Sir, thank you for a very open, frank, enlightening, and insightful talk with facts and figures. Your enthusiasm and energy is palpable and infusing. What you said really resonates with all of us. We all aim to make India's interests first and make India the next big leader in the world, for which we know that bold, decisive decisions are being taken. India is rebooting, reforming, and researching to make it self-reliant, which is a good sign, and I'm confident that with this, India will reach its objective and vision of being a $5 trillion economy. I'm also thankful to you for your forthright answers, very frank and forthright. I'd like to thank our Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, and all those who have come here today and listened to the Minister, as well as the IT staff of Symbiosis, for making this possible. We are really enlightened and enriched from your talk. Thank you very much, sir.
So thank you very much, sir, and we hope to see you at Symbiosis very soon.
Thank you for the invite, ma'am. Surely I'll look forward to visit Symbiosis soon sometime.